What's going on, friends and family? Thank you for watching. This is My Thoughts Uncut. I am your host, Terrence Manning. Today, we're going to talk about the National Guard going to Portland. Yes, Trump and his administration has won the appeal, and the National Guard is heading to Portland. Let's take a look at what they have to say.
The Trump administration can send Oregon National Guard troops to the streets of Portland, Oregon. That's according to a federal appeals court ruling yesterday that dismissed a lower court's order barring that deployment. Earlier this month, a U.S. district judge and Trump appointee ruled that the president's claims of violence in Portland were exaggerated and, quote, simply untethered to the facts. But in a 2-1 decision yesterday, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals argued, quote, it's likely that the president lawfully exercised his statutory authority.
See, people keep saying that this guy's a king and he's a Nazi and all that other crazy rhetoric, but he actually goes through the courts, he waits for the appeals, and yet again, he's won. He's allowed to send a National Guard into Portland, Oregon. Why? Because it's within his rights. Secondly, Portland needs all the help they can get. People don't understand. Portland is bad. Portland is somewhat like San Francisco. Like, it is bad. People doing drugs. There's crime. It's bad. So let's see what they're going to say.
This ruling, however, only gives the green light to Oregon National Guard troops. A temporary restraining order still stops troops from other states being sent to Portland, at least for now. The dissenting judge criticized her colleague's ruling, writing that the decision is, quote, not merely absurd, it erodes core constitutional principles, including sovereign states' control over their states' militias and the people's First Amendment rights to assemble and object to the government's policies and actions.
What do you want to bet that judge is? Super liberal. The reason why we have all this crime in this country is because we have liberal judges who just let these criminals get a slap on the wrist. They tell them, oh, they just need rehabilitation. Oh, they just need some medical help. They're evil. They're just lifelong criminals. They're career criminals. That's what it is. These kind of judges right here, they need to get their license, their judge license taken away, whatever you want to call it. They need to just not be judges.
Just hours after the ruling came down, an unnamed judge on the Ninth Circuit asked for the full panel of judges on the court to rehear the case. Lawyers for both sides have until tomorrow night to refile their arguments on whether or not the case should be reheard. Joining us now, MSNBC White House correspondent Laura Barone-Lopez. Laura, you've been tracking this closely. What does this court ruling say about the larger efforts from this administration to deploy National Guard troops to a number of different states that have said, we do not want them?
Well, it emboldens the administration, emboldens President Trump, because this is what they've been wanting. This is what they say that the president has the legal authority to do, despite the fact that, there are a number of states, including Oregon and its leaders, that feel that this is crossing a line. Even Republican governors have a few number from Oklahoma and from Vermont have said that they can't imagine if a Democratic president were to send National Guard troops into their state. And so the president shouldn't be doing this, when those governors are saying that this is not necessary.
Those governors, either they're incompetent or they are corrupt. Because why do you want crime, so much crime in your cities, in your states? Why? It doesn't make any sense to me unless you're benefiting from the crime. You benefit from the crime because they get locked up, they go to the courts, the lawyers get paid more money, the judges get paid more money. And then these politicians and these race baiters will go out there and claim that, oh, look at what Trump's doing, look what ICE doing to the black community, to the brown community, these people are innocent. Then what happens is we get news of these guys were actually the worst of the worst, and then they're silent. Happens every time.
Now, the big question is, again, as you laid out, does this ultimately happen? When we asked the White House yesterday, they didn't respond to whether or not they were going to be immediately sending troops to Portland. Or does this get blocked again if they rehear the case? And also, what happens with Chicago and Illinois? Because the Supreme Court could be ruling on that very soon.
Yeah, you tee me up perfectly, because that is the next question that I had for you. When you see that this is what a lower court is ruling, what do you think the Supreme Court might say when it comes to Illinois, and then the impact that that could have, given that that ruling is coming not from a circuit court of appeals, but from the Supreme Court itself?
Well, the Supreme Court decision could be very narrow, and it could ultimately end up only applying to Illinois. So there could be that. They could also decide that they're not going to really weigh in too much into the merits of that case, which is something that they've been doing with a number of decisions where they back up the president. They don't necessarily explain why they're backing up the president. So we could very well see them do that when it comes to Illinois. I think that,
Send them to Illinois, Chicago. Send them to New York. Send them everywhere you need them to go. Ask the people in Washington, D.C. how they feel. They're loving how safe it is. Ask the people in Memphis. They're loving how safe it is. He's going to send the National Guard where, when it's needed.
Again, the question is legally, what is the recourse if the Supreme Court backs him up? Where does Governor Pritzker of Illinois take this? And how do they continue to push back against the administration? Because you expect both Newsom and Pritzker to say that that isn't the end of the line for them, that they're going to continue to fight the administration.
Yeah, certainly. And I think in the background, and we've talked about this in relation to this story, there's the immediate legal effect, there's the impact on the ground, but then there's also the way that the 2028 politics are very much percolating around this as well. I think that's a separate conversation for a different time for you and I. But in the short term,
do you guys know that Portland is one of the leading nationwide? They lead in burglary and theft. Like, what? What are we talking about here? Each time the president says this city is a crap hole because of crime, he's not lying. We all know it. Why don't people just admit it? It's like they don't want to admit the truth. You like being in a crime-infested area. You're so used to it. You're oblivious to it. This is not how we should be living.
What is the White House saying in regards to what could happen on the ground in Oregon?
Well, they aren't saying yet when or if they are going to send troops, despite the fact that they've clearly been wanting to do this for some time now. So we asked, does this mean that troops are going to be immediately be deployed? They didn't say anything. They just said that this shows that the president is on solid legal footing. Now, the president has been throwing out the Insurrection Act a lot in the last 2 weeks or so, but that was because he was getting pushback from courts, from even a Trump-appointed judge in Oregon, who was the initial judge that said that this doesn't reflect reality on the ground and you can't do this. And so you sense that frustration from the president as well as his team, and they continue to threaten potentially other action that they felt he had pretty wide berth to do. Now, I expect that because of the fact that they're seeing some wins in the Circuit Court of Appeals, that they aren't necessarily going to take that Insurrection Act step just yet. Yeah,
but we'll ultimately see. And then obviously, if this case is reheard, that would just give us yet another chapter as we continue to track this larger story.
Yeah, so Trump has won yet again. All his administration do is win, no matter what. Also, Portland, you guys are like kids. You don't want to eat the vegetables, but Trump knows this is what's best for you. So eat your vegetables. Enjoy how safe it will be once the National Guard is there. Don't fight it. Let it happen. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button bell, and I see you when I see you. Also, share.